Hey, what's going on, guys? So this video is going to be a little bit different than my other EverQuest videos that I've done in the past, where I'm just kind of, sitting here talking to you guys as I'm going through and playing. I wanted to actually talk about what is arguably the most difficult raid in EverQuest history. It is a raid in the Burning Lands called Mearatas. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, but it is literally everyone I've talked to has said that it's the most difficult raid in EverQuest history, which is saying something because it's really, really late in the life cycle of EverQuest. But in terms of raids, um, for me, it seems genuinely pretty easy. It's kind of funny to think about talking about it in terms of difficulty, in terms of versus other EverQuest raids. Um, you know, I'm gonna give you guys some perspective. I've played raids on like Final Fantasy 14. I've done raids on World of Warcraft. I've done raids on EverQuest. I mean, a good chunk of the EverQuest raids I did back in the day were classic through Dragons of Norath. With that being said, I do think difficulty with EverQuest is typically like set to a much lower bar. I don't know if it's because of just how EverQuest typically tends to work. The difficulty really, it's not all there. I will say this, like it's really fun. I genuinely have a really good time. And of course, you can take what I say with a grain of salt because I'm also typically not someone who's assigned a really difficult task in the Mearatas raid. So let me just kind of give you guys like an overview here. And as you'll see in the video that we have playing here in the background, you'll see me kind of running around. Basically, Mearatas has, there's different hallways, and then there are different enemies that will spawn. There is the main boss, the unfettered Emerald Excellence that spawns in the center of the room. You have a tank that is tanking it, and you literally have everyone moving as a group. While it's happening, there are meatballs, we called them, that are being thrown at the raid that cause an AoE around that said meatball. The entire raid is moving as a group. We have somebody who's specifically circled, so we all know to stay on top of them. So we know the meatballs that are being thrown at the people all land in the same spot. And then we can just move around steadily around the room as those meatballs are doing their AoEs. So it doesn't affect the other stuff that's going around. There are methods that will spawn all throughout the room that will only be affected by specific Bane damage. And you have to use that Bane damage to kill those methods. In addition to that, there are other enemies that spawn in the hallways that I believe are also damage related, like Bane damage related, like stun, snare, stuff like that. Again, that's not really the task I'm typically assigned, so that's another reason why I probably think it's not that difficult. But so basically you have your raid of 54 that is broken into these different parts. I'm typically just given the, stand here and stab the boss part. While all of that is happening, the boss will occasionally go immune and like basically teleport to the center of the room. Everyone gets out of the center of the room, and then you'll be targeted with a color specific debuff, whether it's like earth, wind, fire, water, whatever it is, and you have to go to a specific hallway while that debuff is on you in a certain amount of time. And if you don't go to that hallway, or number one, if you go to the improper hallway, or you don't make it there in time, you die. And every single person that dies also spawns another method. And it can just turn into this cascade effect. And all while this is happening, another thing to add to the mix here is you will occasionally be affected by two different debuffs. Poison proliferation, and there is another one, I can't remember what it's called, but it turns you into like a stone golem. If you have poison proliferation on you, you can't try to cure the stone debuff, otherwise it will instantly kill you, also spawning another method. So while the raid and all of these things that is happening is basically running in these circles on top of each other, targeting and killing the boss, you're getting hit with these two different debuffs. And then you have to make sure that you have people who are splash curing to cure poison proliferation to then also let you be cured of the other debuff. If you are cured in the wrong order, it will kill you and Mephits will spawn. I'm sure someone from my guild is going to end up seeing this and correcting me. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect. But all of this is all happening in little splurts of time. So like at 90%, he'll go immune. Then you have Mephits to kill. And then you'll fight him again down to like either 75 or 70%. And then he'll go immune again. And then Mephits will spawn. And then you're also running to hallways, color coordinated. And then you're having these other golems that are spawning that you have to go through and kill while you're tanking the boss. And then it's a big cycle. So you can see how it can be called the most difficult raid in EverQuest history. And again, like I said, I'm never really assigned the difficult tasks, so I can't really truly say from my perspective that it's an undeserved title of the most difficult raid. It definitely seems like it, comparatively speaking to most of the EverQuest raids. I think most of the time I panic when I'm given any difficult or specific task, like, hey, put a trap here, or hey, do this, or hey, do that, because I'm so rogue-brained that most of the time I'm like, I'm just here for damage. Don't expect me to do anything else. Thank God for healers. But it is a very fun raid. It is a raid that has all these moving parts that have to coincide and just work. It's like a little clock where you need all these gears just moving properly in this very, very specific order. My guild, Faceless, has managed to kill it several times now. I think they're even working on getting very specific achievements for the raid done. I personally don't really have any interest in achievements. I see why they're doing it. It's a lot of fun to say that you have all the achievements, and I think you get specific AAs and stuff like that for doing it as well. Most of the time, just give me the loot and I'm done. But yeah, comparing this to other raids that I've done on other video games, it's definitely not the most difficult. But I can see how it's the most difficult when it comes to EverQuest, because I think so many EverQuest gamers in general are kind of programmed to play the game easy mode. It's, one of the original MMOs. It's like the original tank and spank. So any sort of mechanics that's thrown in there typically gets people confused. I almost feel like personally, Vishimtar the Fallen is one of the more comparably difficult raids, because Dragons of Norath was pretty complicated back in the day. At least Vishimtar was. There are some other raids that are pretty technically difficult too, like I think Death Knell Tower of Dissonance with A&E Row and stuff like that. I think that's typically said to be a really boring but also kind of complex. I'm sure there are other raids in there that could be given the mantle of at least almost as difficult. I also missed out on a huge portion of raiding back in the day. I skipped raiding literally from Dragons of Norath all the way to Ring of Scale. So there's a lot of it that I've missed. So everything I'm saying here is for the most part just going to be hearsay. I've been raiding with these guys for about 4 months now. Holy shit, it's been almost 4 months. I've been raiding with these guys about 4 months. We have Torment of Valius coming out in about a week. Unfortunately, Burning Lands is like the last expansion to require like group progression content to be able to do the raids. I say unfortunately, but literally going forward, all these expansions like drop and you can do the raid content day one. I think this is when the EverQuest expansions in general start to kind of fizzle out when it comes to pre-raid content. It's going to be very straightforward for content going forward here, which is not a bad thing. I mean, it really, really isn't, because for people like me who I play EverQuest 3 hours a week, maybe 4 hours a week, and that's typically not by choice. I just don't have that much time on my hands. But going forward with EverQuest expansions, at least from Burning Lands on, or after Burning Lands, content is going to start being very straightforward. I haven't really had anybody tell me that the raids get particularly difficult. I do remember some people talking about a couple Night of Shadows raids having some pretty cool but difficult mechanics. I'm excited to eventually get to see those. But yeah, with Mearatas, it's really fun. It felt really engaging. It felt really cool. Some of the other raids that I'll probably end up putting videos up about, like the General Raparm event. You end up fighting General Raparm again. Basically, he's sitting on Finenro's throne. He has a really cool event where you're fighting him. You're fighting these skeletons that spawn. Then you've got these toads that spawn. Then you've got these giant snails that spawn. That's really fun too. There are a few other raids in it's like Plane of Smoke. There's like a balance event of these 3 big bosses you're fighting while a whole portion of the raid is up top of this spiral staircase. I mean, I'm sure I'll end up putting videos up about those to talk about those, but I did just at least want to talk about Mearatas. We were able to beat it and get the quote-unquote achievement of the fastest Mearatas kill, or successful completion for the Burning Lands period. At least from what I've been told, we had the fastest. I think we beat it. It was week 1.5, almost week 2, that we were able to beat it. We still basically had no gear. They had me, so that's its own handicap in itself. But we were able to beat it. I beat it on stream, which was really fun. The really funny thing that happened when we did beat it on stream, which that's a video I'll end up uploading at some point for the memes. When we beat it, I died at like 4% health. It was like 4 or 5%, I think. I respawned and I real quick ran through the guild hall and I took the guild standard, or what I thought was the guild standard portal, to teleport back on top of everybody in Mearatas. And someone in the guild reassigned the fucking teleport to Dragonscale Hills. So because of that, we have a guild rule that during raid night, you cannot change what the teleport is set to in the neighborhood guild hall. You can go to the regular guild hall, you can do whatever you want there, but the neighborhood guild hall, you can no longer reassign where the teleport goes to. It was hilarious, but it was also really gut-wrenching because for that achievement of getting basically the fastest Mearatas kill ever, I would have been the only one to have been able to stream it and show it, but unfortunately, I got to enjoy the view from Dragonscale Hills whenever we all got the achievement. So I missed the big finish. At least for this video, you guys will finally get to see the start to complete finish when we actually beat Unfettered Emerald Excellence. Again, guys, don't take my word for it. If you end up seeing how difficult the raid is, or you know how difficult it is for yourself or your guild, feel free to let me know. I do really hope that other live guilds that end up seeing this eventually, maybe you'll understand it a bit better than me. Maybe you'll have a higher respect for it. Again, I'm not saying it's an easy raid. It is just kind of funny to talk about it for perspective, comparing it to other game raids that I've ever played. Because in terms of difficulty for me, I would probably give it like a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10. I'm sure the clerics and the paladins and all the people who were doing the bane damage would give it a much higher ranking. But yeah, that's enough ranting. I just wanted to show you guys a start to finish completion of Mearatas. It was a really good time. I'm really happy to be a part of the guild. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you all in the next one.